Hey everybody, Nick here, and today I got a little bit of disassembly and maintenance for you on this little guy. This is the Protech Knives Runt. Oh yeah, and the interesting thing, well, that interesting thing about this little guy is that it is an automatic knife. If you press this button, blade goes flying out of there. This means that you're going to want to be a little bit more cautious as you're disassembling this knife, just because, well, there's a spring in here. This could come flying apart on you. And so I'm going to be mentioning in a couple of different places where you need to take a little bit of extra caution and precaution as you are doing this process here. Step one I'm going to do is pop off these carbon fiber scales here, because I suspect that underneath there are going to be one or two body screws. Ah, crap, they're from the other side. Oh, Protech, you're freaking killing me here. Okay, so the reason I'm dismayed is I can see the other end of the screws coming in here. And what that means is that rather than just popping this off, and this off, and then, unscrewing the body screws, I will instead have to go entirely, I will have to take, like, nearly every screw in this knife out. So I'll need to remove the pocket clip, I'll need to remove the pivot screw, I'll need to, But here we are, we're doing it, let's do it. Okay. This is a California legal automatic knife. That takes something because it's very, very easy to be illegal, at least according to California laws. And I mean that as a knife. I don't know how easy it is to be illegal as a person there. Probably about as easy as everywhere else. But nonetheless, that is, oh God, I'm getting political. Back at the ranch, hey, Protech Runt right here. Alrighty, so I've got the pocket clip off. Now we're going to pop off this carbon fiber. Oh God, run. Run away, Nick, run. And we're going to go ahead and start removing these screws here. Then we'll go back to the other side. We'll pop the pivot off, and we should be able to disassemble this knife fully. Note that I am working with the blade open now. That is not only because I need to commit ritual seppuku if I go any closer to politics than I just accidentally did. Whoa there. But also because this has a spring to it, and that spring will deploy the knife, whether I'm expecting it to or not. So I might as well have it mostly deployed as it stands. One thing to note, though, is that I have just voided this knife's warranty like freaking crazy. Absolutely voided. This is one of the ugliest things about Protech. I really like their stuff. I really like their work, generally speaking. But, oh man, they hate you disassembling their knives. And so, keep that in mind. Now, okay, here's where we enter the danger zone. Because, well, not only do I need a different size freaking screwdriver, which is not ideal. Come here, X-bit. There we go. But because there is now a little coil spring in play here. I know how this works, just because I've taken a couple of Protech autos apart before. But you're going to want to keep that in mind. Holy beefy screw, Batman. Look at the freaking thickness of this screw. All right. So there's my pivot screw removed. And now what we're going to do is holding on to the blade, because that's an important thing. The part of a knife that can really hurt you adequately is the blade. The rest of it has a little more trouble. So we're going to go ahead, holding on to the blade, and try and lift this apart here. And we're getting close to popped out. But I know the blade's not going anywhere. The other thing that's going to come flying off of this guy, if I don't succeed, is the button lock on here. This little guy right down here is, there's a spring underneath it. So it's very possible, okay, things are getting loose here. All right. Sorry. High tension. I know the blade's not going anywhere. Okay, good. There we go. Okay, hey. Now I'm going to lift this out. There's going to be a little bit of a pop as that spring goes into place. Okay, we are all set here, folks. You can see what's going on. And the knife is disassembled. Whew, all righty. Now, once we're in here, we see what's going on with this knife. We see that although it is an automatic, it's actually not all that interesting in terms of, the construction. There's nothing crazy going on in here. We'll go ahead and start wiping this off. One thing that's kind of interesting that Protech seems to do on the regular, at least every Protech I've ever taken apart has done this. They've got the blade just runs right up against this DLC coated or whatever the heck metal here. This is, And you can see they've got a little area that's kind of raised that supports the blade there. It's not something that particularly bothers me, which is weird, because generally speaking, I'm a freaking zealot about washes. But, you know, here it just doesn't bug me particularly. The reason it doesn't bug me so much is that, A, it's an automatic knife. No matter what you do to this knife, it will deploy. It's not the case that it relies on, you know, a smooth action or anything like that. This has a spring that is way stronger than it needs to be that will make this knife deploy. So, wow, by the way, look at the fair amount of cutout in this blade here. But anyways, so as a result, it's not the case that, you know, you need to worry about... Does this pop loose at all? No, I don't really think it does. Or at least I'm not inclined to find out. But either way, so you don't really need the fancy, you know, washes, etc., bearings, whatever, for this to fire out reliably. And so, you know, that's kind of nice. And ultimately, yeah. So it doesn't bug me so much. And with the DLC coatings, usually pretty low friction. Whatever, not a big deal. But it is something you want to keep in mind. And if you're getting this far and you're thinking, oh, God, what did I do with the spring? Or with the washers, that is, you didn't do anything with the washers. They weren't washers to start with. It's like Fast and the Furious. You never had your car. Now, that's a dated reference, ladies and gentlemen. Alrighty, speaking of Fast and Furious, let's put this guy back together such that it can redeploy fastly and furiously. Fastly, I believe quickly is the English term there. English is hard, guys. Okay, so, the step number one here that we're going to need to do is get this spring back seated into position. So what you can see here is that this spring has this little doodad sticking off to the side. That's the technical term, and that doodad needs to go in this little, needs to, let's put it this way. This spring needs to seat itself adequately inside this notch. There you go. That's less dirty. And so let's go ahead and ensure that that is the case. The way we're going to do that is actually by laying this into that position and then sort of rotating the knife onto there. And so at this point in time, what we can actually feel is that I've screwed that up because the little doodad didn't stay in the hole. All right, slide that down in there. Okay, beautiful. Now the doodad is seated in the, yeah, and there is now springitude here. I can feel it, you can't feel it. That's because I'm sitting here and you're not. But nonetheless, that's the case. Now, we have forgotten a step. Not really, I kind of knew I was forgetting it, but that's the button lock. A button lock knife, this little button pops up when the knife is in a deployed position, and it kind of comes to right here, and that prevents this blade from moving around. But you need to have this spring underneath the button lock. And there is a little bit of a trick here. For a button lock, did the doodad just pop out? No, it didn't. All right. What you're going to need to do is kind of grab the spring with the bottom of the button lock here. See, because you need that to be properly oriented. Now, you cannot insert the button with the knife in this situation, but what you can do is slightly lift the knife blade off of the handle here. That will give it just enough room to pop through, for the button lock, that is, to pop through into position. Now the button lock is actually being held down, which is good. The problem is the doodad in position. The doodad is in position. Now we need to get, while keeping the doodad in position, we need to drop this handle back down onto here. Okay, there we go. Button lock is in place. Doodad is in position. Everything is now seated properly-ish. Why is the button lock not... There we go. Button lock is in position. Doodad, we're good. There is springitude here. See, watch. This is dangerous. I'm holding this together only with strong finger tension. There we go. Beautiful. Button lock is still in there, seated well. All right, we're good to go. All right, step one is going to be to put the pivot back into position, and I'm going to, again, work with the knife in the open, in the open position here. I'm using pressure from my arm here to press down on this. This is an octopus moment, one of the many moments during the course of a knife disassembly where I wish I was an octopus, not only because I could live under the sea, and that's, well, at least the Little Mermaid made that out to seem pretty cool. But anyways, God, I'm just full of dated references today. But also because it would give me an extra hand or 6, I suppose, to be able to do things like this more readily. All right, pop through there, doodad seated. Yeah, we're firing. All right, we're good to go. So now I'm going to go ahead and pop in these other screws here. Do I need to have the blade open still? Yes, I will, just because that minimizes torque on the system here. Okay, that's right. That's a much bigger size. I'm going to keep that around here. Don't need my torque bits over here. Nice. This is a knife which has many, many screws on it, many different types of screws. So the pivot hex screw is a 3/32, because that's a number that we should be using. Good God, inches. What are you doing, inches? And this screwdriver in the back here is a 5/64, because we need fractions for this. And then we were going to go ahead and use, I believe it was T6, to get the rest of things put back together here. And you see me using a little bit of blue Loctite here. That's just to make sure everything kind of stays together. Once I put it together, everything's back there. We're good. Okay. Now I can put away this screw. Keep the one for the pivot around, because I'll probably be adjusting that down the road here. If you're ever curious about any of my knife disassembly tools, go ahead and watch my knife disassembly toolkit video, where I show... probably helpful if I actually install the carbon fiber before I install the screw that holds the carbon fiber down. Maybe I'm just being overcautious there, but it seems like a good idea. It strikes me it'll do a much better job holding the carbon fiber down if it's on the knife rather than on my desk. But, you know... stranger things, right? All right. Pop this there. At this point, the only thing remaining is the clip, which needs to go back on. Again, had they just done that the opposite direction, we wouldn't have had to take the clip off at all. This would have been just a festival of victory. But instead, no. Instead, we denied this victory. But that's okay. Not really. This clip overall... yeah, hashtag spoiler review, or spoiler review spoiler. Well, a spoiler review, I guess, right? Screw this through a little bit here. There we go. But yeah, this clip drives me freaking nuts. Dip down only, overly tight. Actually, come to think of it. Yeah, all right. Tried to give it a little bit of a bend there, because it's a little overly tight. I may have to take this off and do that again. One nice way to rebend a clip here is to actually flip the clip around so you've got the two screws in position there, and that will allow you then to use the body of the knife as leverage there. Be careful, it's a nice way to break clips, but it's also, if you overbend your clip, the way to get it fixed. And this is also the reason why, generally speaking, clips that are built into the body of the knife are not a great idea. You end up with all sorts of trouble. If your clip bends, you can't do that. Integral knives are great. Integral clips, not so much. Integral knives are not without their troubles, too, but they're awesome. Okay, so we have this guy tightened down. Everything's Loctited in. Deploys reliably. Little tiny bit of blade play, so I'm going to tighten the pivot down slightly more. And sometimes, in fact, 2 of the last 3 Protechs I've had on my table, this guy not included, actually no, 3 of the last 4, yikes, have had a little bit of blade play going on. There we go. No play. And so all you need to do is get to the pivot there. That's easy on this guy. Just need the Allen key. But, you know, on something like the Magic, a little trickier. And then, by the way, I didn't mention this, but I was using 85 weight nano oil there on the inside. The reason I'm using the 85 rather than the 10 is just that it's a little thicker. It'll stay in place. And this doesn't rely on that kind of speedy action. So, yeah, that's something to keep in mind. But regardless, this knife is now fully disassembled and reassembled. It's now running great, although, to be honest, it was running great before. But you now know how to do it, how to completely and totally void your warranty, and, yeah, how to take this little guy apart. And you never need to take this part off on the front, by the way. Just remember that one. So anyways, hope this has been interesting to you, and have yourselves just an absolutely wonderful rest of the day, and I hope that this protects some of your time if you ever have to do this. I'm sorry, protects some of you. Guys, I set up for the pun. I was right there at the finish line, then I just, like, fell over. Ay, ay, ay. Anyways, hope this has been interesting. Have yourselves an absolutely wonderful rest of your day. Bye now.